Hello guys, welcome to our first class of Unity. So in this first class, I'm gonna show to you guys Unity Hub and as well with the Unity editor where we are going to be making our games and programming our games as well. So at first you may be a little bit confused by why you have two different softwares in order to use Unity, because we use Unity Hub and we also use the Unity editor. They are different two softwares because Unity Hub is the software that it's meant to organize the different versions of Unity Editor that we may need. So we're not gonna make games on Unity Hub, okay? Unity Hub is just the software to control which version of Unity we're going to use and where we actually create our new project. But the game itself is going to be made in Unity, all right? So when you open up your Unity Hub, it's gonna show up something similar to what we have right here. And in order to make a project, we're going to go here on New, and then we need to select which kind of project we want to make. So we can imagine to make a 2D game or a 3D game. So depending on the project that you create, you're going to select a different kind of layout for Unity. Okay, it's the same software, but it's not the same layout. I'm gonna go with 2D right now. So here I'm gonna put class of Unity. And this is the location of the project that you will be saving on your computer. All right. When we click create, Unity will start to create our project as well as loading all the assets that it needs in order to create a game. All right. Depending on Unity Hub that you have, you're going to have more than one version of Unity. And then on Unity Hub, you can control all the different versions of Unity that you have. It's gonna take a little bit of time when you first create your project because Unity is trying to load up all the assets that it needs. So I will just skip a little bit on the video just so I come back when Unity is totally loaded up. All right, see you soon. All right, so Unity is totally loaded up right now. If for some reason your Unity doesn't look like this, you can change the way it looks. Here on the top corner, it says layout. If you click right here, you're gonna show to you all the list of different layouts that Unity have. And the one that I'm using right now is called 2x3. But you can select 4 split, default, tall, and wide. Probably your Unity will probably look like this. This is the default that Unity comes when you first download Unity. I don't really like this version of this layout. So that's why I usually use 2x3. I prefer this one. I think it's better because I can see, I think it's easier to see where my game objects are in the scene. Okay, game objects, I'm going to explain right now what it is. So I'm going to explain a little bit of each part and each window that you can see right here in this layout. All right. First, we have scene. So this window right here, it's the view of the game objects that we have in our project and where they are in the scene. So game objects are everything that exists in the game. So imagine that you have a camera, a character, maybe an enemy, and the map. Every single thing that actually exists on the game will be called a game object because it's going to be an object of the game. And then we can place where this game object will be in the scene here on the scene view. So that's is the view of the developer, okay? Is where we are going to build our maps, where we're going to place our character, where we're going to place our enemies, and every single game object that actually exists in the scene. Right below it, we can see the game view. It's very similar to the scene view, but this one right here, it represents the vision of the player. So it means it's how actually the player is going to see the game when you have on a computer, maybe on a mobile or any device that will be displaying the game for the player. So that's the view of the player, and scene view is the view of the developer. Okay, so we create things here on the scene view, we place them around right here, and on the game view we test the game as the player would play the game when it first came. Okay, sometimes it's a little bit it's not very huge, this window right here. So when we are testing the game, you can select this button right here, maximize on play, and then it means that when we're going to test the game, it will be maximized to fill the whole window. All right, how we can play the game, you can go right here in these three little buttons right here. The first one is to play and the second is to pause. If you click on the first button, it's going to load up this game view in the whole scene. So it means that we can test the game in a full device right here. Of course, our game is empty, so we don't have anything right now to test, but if we had something, it will be showing up right here. All right. So, okay, we have the scene view and we have the game view. The next window that is very important is called hierarchy. So this is the list of every single game object that exists. So every single thing that is on the scene view will be listed right here on the hierarchy list. You can see the scene view, sample scene right here. If you open this, it's going to show to us every single game object that exists in the scene. Right now we only have main camera, and is this game object right here. If you double click right here, it's going to focus right here. So imagine that I'm not in the place of the game object and I lost track of it. So if I double click on the game object on the hierarchy, it's gonna focus for me. So it's very easy to find your game objects through the hierarchy list. You just need to double click it. Okay, so here is going to be all the list of all game objects that we have. Again, game object is every single thing that exists on the game. So the player, the main camera, the enemy, the ground, the powers, every single thing that exists on the game will be in a certain way a game object, and it will be listed in the hierarchy. All right. The next window that we have, it's called project. So this is all the files that we're going to use in our game. So imagine that we're creating a 2D game and we want to use an image of the player. Of course, Unity is not meant to create 2D files, so we're going to import it from some place. This file is going to be on the project file. So it's very, very, very similar to what we have on Windows on the Explorer. It's going to work the same way. We're going to import files right here to the project, and then we can turn these files into game objects, and then we can make this work in our game. All right. So here we are also going to organize our game. So we have the files of scenes. We can have files of audio, files of, let's say, 2D content. We can have files of scripts. So we can organize where we are going to import things and also create new files right here in Unity. So hierarchy shows a list of every single game object that are on the scene, and the project shows every single file that exists on our game. And here in the last window that we have, it's called inspector. So this inspector shows to us all the information that we have from a file or from a game object. Okay, so let's imagine that I'm going to click here on the scene. You can see a little bit of a description of how this file works. So scenes, default assets. So this is just the description of this file. If I click on the sample scene, you have some description of this file right here. If I click on the main camera in the hierarchy, I have all the information of this game object. Okay, so we can see all the what we call components of this game object. So right here we have, for example, we have the name, we have the tag, we have the layer, we have a lot of information that I'm not going to go deep on this right now, but they are all the informations of this game object. And the most important is we also have components. So components is what define a game object's behavior. So if we think about every single object in the scene is a game object, but they behave differently, right? The main camera is not going to work the same way as the player will be because they are different game objects. And what defines a game object for a specific behavior is components. So we have components, different components right here that will make my camera work as a camera. So we have transform, we have camera, and we also have the last one, audio listener. Okay, transform is the most basic component that a game object can have. So if you think about it, it saves the position on X, Y, and Z, the rotation on X, Y, and Z, and also the scale for X, Y, and Z. This transform is existing in every single game object that exists on the Unity. So if we create a player, it will have transform. If we create, let's say, another main camera, it will have transform. So every single game object that exists on the game will have this transform component. This is the most basic component that every single game object needs to have. The other one that it have is camera. So this camera component is what define the main camera a camera. So we have all the informations right here that we can change in order to make our camera work differently. And also we have audio listener, that what makes our main camera listen some audio sources that is around the map. Okay, so what makes the main camera work as a main camera is not one component, but actually those three components that we have right here, that they do separate things, but all together they work as the main camera. So transform, camera, and audio listening. They are the most basic components that we have, and at least transform. And the main camera is actually what defines the camera to work in a way that we want, like this. Okay, so it works to every single game object. Imagine that we want to add a new component. We can. So we go here, and then we just need to type the name of the component and add to the main camera. And also the main camera will start behaving the way that the component defines. All right, let's do a test with it. So here on the main camera, what I'm going to do is to create a new game object. Okay, I'm not going to create a game object empty. I'm going to create a game object that is coming from a template from Unity. So I'm going to go right here, game object, and I'm going to select 3D object and then cube. So this cube right here, it's a 3D image, but it's not going to show to me as a 3D image as we are working on 2D Unity. So this cube right here, I'm going just to change a little bit the Z so it show up to our main camera. Okay, -2, because it was on the same position of the main camera, so I just make the position a little bit increase it on the Z so we can see it. Okay, so this cube right here, we can move them around the place in the scene view with some specific tools. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different tools that we can use in order to change the position, rotation, and also the scale of our character or any other game object that exists on Unity. So I'm going to click right here on the cube on the hierarchy, and I'm going to select the second tool that we have right here. So the second tool is called Move To. We can select this tool on 2 different ways. You can click right here to the Move Tools, and you can see the different arrows. And we can also, if we are not on the Move Tool, if you press W on the keyboard, it's going to go to the Move Tool automatically. It's a hotkey. So these 2 arrows right here, if I click and drag, I can move my object around. And then you can see that I'm actually changing the position on the transform of the cube right here. So in that way, I can start to build in my map with cubes or actually move any kind of different game object that exists on the game. Okay. The next tool, it's called Rotation Tool, Rotate Tool. And we can also go with E on the keyboard. This, it's working almost the same way as the Move Tool, but in this way we can only rotate our character or cube. Okay. So we can change, also you can see that we are changing right here on the transform component. The other tool that we have is called Scale Tool, and this, it works pretty much the same way as the Move Tool, but instead of moving the tool, is going to change the shape of the tool to make it bigger. Okay, so with those, and also you can go with the hotkey R right here. So W, Move Tool, E, Rotate Tool, R, Scale Tool. And the last one is T. It's called Rect Tool. It works in a way that is similar to what we have on the Scale Tool, but I guess it's easier to move our cube around. So T, you can see this lines right here, and we can drag them as we change the shape of this. Okay, so it works pretty much the same way as the scale 2, but it works better for 2D images when we have something like this. Okay, so right now with W, E, R, and T, you can pretty much place this cube in any part of the map. So if I'm going to go right here on the rotation, and I'm going to put 0 on Z, all right? So you can see that it's -2 on Z as well. I can move around this cube around and start changing all the rotation. So imagine that I'm make the cube right here. How do I go there? It's not on my map anymore. So that's what the move to the hand tool meant to work. It's where we can drag and drop our place to get a better view. This one you can select with the middle wheel of the mouse. So it works the same way. Okay, so imagine that you're moving, middle wheel of the mouse, drag, move, drag, but you can also go here with the hand. It works the same way. Okay, so the cube right here, as you can see, it have different components right here. So these components is what define the tool, the cube, a cube. So you can see it have a cube mesh filter, a mesh render. Those two works in a way that makes the cube be visible, and we have box collider as well. So this box collider is the guy responsible to calculate all the collisions with the box, or any kind of collision that we have as a box. So if we click right here in this little icon right here, you can see that it's the boundaries of what is the physical boundary. If you have a collision, it's going to calculate with this box right here. Not what we see, is how Unity is seeing this as a physical cube, a physical body. So if we play the game right now, it's not gonna happen anything, because this cube does not have anything besides the box collider and the rendering. Imagine that we want to add gravity to this cube. So we can add component right here and type rigid body. So this rigid body right here adds gravity to our cube. So in a way that if we add it to the cube, it's going to start making the cube fall, because it's going to make the cube respect gravity. So if we play right now, it's gonna fall. And also imagine that I want to make a ground. So I'm gonna add another game object that's going to be our ground. I'm gonna go here on game object, 3D object, and then cube. Okay, it's very similar to what we had before, but right now on the hierarchy I have cube 1, and I'm going to rename this. So right click on the mouse, rename. I'm gonna call floor. I'm gonna position this cube right in the ground and make it very, very long, so it respects the ground right here. It is going to be similar to a ground. I'm not gonna add rigid body to this cube because I don't want this floor to fall with gravity. I just want the cube that we have to fall. So if I place this cube up and play the game, we're going to have the collision. We should have the collision with those, but actually they are not on the same Z, so that's our problem. You can see that the cube is on -2 and the floor is on -2.9. It needs to be on the same Z in order to collide. So I'm gonna change this to -2 so they are on the same Z. So floor -2 on the Z and cube -2 as well. So right now they should collide. Okay, you can see. So this collision right here, it's because of the box collider of the cube. What we see, it's not the box collider. We see the graphical. So imagine that I'm going to the cube and I'm going to change the box collider to be something bigger. So I'm gonna change in order to be bigger than the object that we have. So if we play the game right now, it's going to have an invisible body. You can see it's hitting not on the cube itself, the graphics. It's hitting on the physical body. So we have something like this, and they are all calculations between box collider and the rigid body. It's making the cube fall. So in that way, we can add a lot of different components, and they are going to behave in a different way depending on which kind of component we add. So I'm gonna go back and put the graphic, the box collider, to fit what we have before, so we don't have like this invisible body, just to make it look similar to what we have on the graphics. Okay, so it's kind of respecting a little bit bigger still, but I think it's gonna work. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate a lot of these cubes in order to see how they interact with each other. So here on the cube, I'm gonna go right click on the mouse and call duplicate. It's on the same place, so we can see they both on the game. So I'm gonna go with W, move to, and move around, and then again, duplicate, move around, duplicate, and move around. So we have 4 cubes right here with gravity. So what I'm going to do is to place them in a different order so we can see how the physical body interacts within each other right here. So if we play the game, we'll have the collision between them. And if we keep adding more cubes, we're gonna have more interaction between them. It's gonna make our game actually have more game objects with more behaviors. They are going to be similar, but they are going to be different game objects listed on the hierarchy right here. So we can add a lot of other components that will start making the behavior to each cube right here. And then we can make they talk with each other in order to make them behave all together. And how to make them talk to each other? We have to write scripts in order to say to the cubes which one of them is going to be making. Okay, so we are kind of creating different components in the Unity so we can make them work together, or as enemies, players, in the map itself. They can be anything pretty much. We just need to tell them what to do, what actually the main camera have on the camera. This cube will have some script that will tell the cube what to do. So that's the basic of how Unity actually works. If we play the game and we pause the game, you can see pretty much right here, and you can pause and see the freeze time, how Unity is calculating. And that's pretty much how Unity works in the logic of game object. Everything is a game object, and I highly recommend you guys to play a little bit with the cubes, place them in different parts, see how they react together, try to use another format that Unity have, and try to make something funny, try to make some walls, some floors. Just be careful, do not put rigid body on the floors and walls in order so they respect gravity. So you can pretty much make a different map right here, try to place them, try to enjoy a little bit with the move tool, because that's how we actually build maps inside of Unity. And that's it for the first class. That's what I need to show to you guys, a little bit of the layout. And the next part, we are going to start working a little bit more on the components and on the scripts itself. Thank you very much. I hope you guys liked. Play a little bit with Unity and put different components on different game objects to see what's going to be happening.